The country of France has declared war on the 6-year Joel Embiid following his decision to represent the United States in the Olympics rather than France itself. Now, Joel is an interesting character when it comes to who he will represent. Obviously, his backstory that he grew up in Cameroon, came to the United States of America when he was 16 and has lived here to this point. He is a citizen in all three countries, that being Cameroon, the United States, and France itself. And this is kind of a complicated issue. If you want to really dive into the history books and the history of it, that Cameroon being a French territory back in the day. Obviously, they're their own independent country at this point, and a lot of other factors. And Joel himself does speak all three languages fluently. In fact, he still speaks French with Nico Batum around the facilities today. So there's a lot of factors that do play into it. But France seems pretty upset that he did make this choice. And this does come after the announcement of the U.S. rosters, saying that the biggest stars will be representing the 12-man roster, those being LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, Drew Holiday, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Bam Adebayo, and Tyrese Halliburton. That we know in a few recent Olympics, the United States has taken their foot off the gas a little bit as far as sending these biggest stars, the guys that are ready to dominate on the biggest stage. And it does feel like this is one of the years where these stars have aligned, where we get a dream team like Olympics. And Joel Embiid is going to be a part of it, which is pretty cool to say. He is absolutely the best center, debatably the best center in the league, and absolutely the best American center, as Nikola Jokic is really the only other argument there, and obviously he will not be representing America, but it does seem that France is taking this quite personally. And most recently, the news that we do have is them leaking a letter from Joel Embiid to France specifically, which kind of was a lame move, I guess is the nicest way to put it on France's part, but to read it specifically here, a leaked letter from Joel Embiid to France in 2021. Quote, "After discussion with the French Basketball Federation, my choice has now been made. I wish to take steps to obtain French naturalization and thus be selected with the Blues. I therefore do not wish to play for any other national team. I have never worn the colors of any national team. It would be an immense honor for me to join this French team to participate in the next major international competitions, first and foremost, the 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games." Now, for starters, again, I think it's super lame that France even let this go public, that this is a pretty personalized and individual choice, and frankly, I think deserves to remain in the eyeballs of who it was meant for. But also, Joel Embiid's allowed to change his mind. That to this point, he has not declared allegiance, and I get that is like a dead set that I want to play for it, but like you can't hold a guy to every single decision, and at this point in time, that was 3 full years ago. A lot changes in 3 years, and a lot has changed in Joel Embiid's specific life. And to lean on why specifically he did choose America, he made it pretty clear. And to give his official Instagram post for when this was the case, number one, he posted this today saying, "Arthur, pack your bags, Olympics, here we come," as he did receive his United States jersey, but he went even more in depth when making his official announcement, writing, "I'm really proud and excited about this decision. It was not easy. I am blessed to call Cameroon, France, and the USA home. After talking to my family, I knew it had to be Team USA. I want to play with my brothers in the league. I want to play for the fans because they've been incredible since the day I came here. But most of all, I want to honor my son who was born in the US. I want my boy to know I played my first Olympics for him." I just don't know how you can hate a guy for those kind of mindset for that leading into the decision making. And again, there is a lot that plays into this, and I understand being frustrated at it, but on France's side of things. But I don't think you can act like you're betrayed in the way that they are really projecting things. And there's been a number of quotes that have leaked out or been made public by a number of members of the high-ranking French officials. I get it. They did bend some rules. They did go out of their way to allow him to become a citizen, that the rules in France are pretty strict with things, that you do have to live there. I believe the rule is for 6 months for that ball to even really begin to get rolling. And they did go out of their way to allow him. But I don't think that guarantees that he plays or that holds you to the fire in these types of decisions. And again, he did make it pretty clear in his specific letter here, but that's all the way back in 21. And it did take steps for it to even be that case, that he officially became a French citizen in 2022. There was a ton of speculation, but another point that I wanted to bring up is it was not just the red carpet laid out for him to go join the French team. That I found a funny quote that I specifically want to pull up here. This coming from Nico Batum, who of course is the man of the hour after that 20-point performance in the playing game, but he did not seem so welcoming with Joel. This quote being back in 2018 here. And he writes, quote, "I'm against naturalized people," Batum said in 28 about Embiid possibly joining, "but here we are perhaps talking about the best player in his position. On the basketball level, without the ethical side, it must be done. Afterwards, on the ethical side, there is a problem." And I get where Batum's coming from on that him not being a quote-unquote true French citizen, that Joel Embiid has never lived in France in the way that I think that is the integrity of how they're interpreting things. But the bottom line is, like, this happens in a lot of places. This is not a French-specific issue. This is not a U.S.-specific issue. If you want to jump in the soccer world, we see guys switch their just identification from a citizenship standpoint pretty frequently. That obviously you have to make that declaration and stick with it, but there's a little bit of testing the waters of what is the best move for my professional career. And I get it that Joel Embiid's not looking to launch himself in the same way that it often is the case with these types of soccer comparisons, but I think it's unfair to kind of be dragging the guy to ultimately choose to represent the country that his son was born in. And one of those big changes during Joel's life has really been what a family man he has become. That we all remember, the unique, off the walls, immature 18, 19-year-old that showed up in Philadelphia, the guy that was ripping off his shirt, dancing with Meek Mill at concerts when he was supposed to be out injured for games. And he's grown into this actually mature, grown-up adult human being right before all of our eyes. And it is cool how much responsibility and how much care he shows for Arthur specifically. He brings him to the press conferences. He's always posting them on social media, and that is clearly the priority in Joel Embiid's life. And basketball has taken a bit of a backseat for that. Now, obviously, there's plenty of bigger fish to fry in this conversation. For starters, the Sixers are in the midst of an NBA playoff run, and if Joel Embiid is to pick up any sort of injury during this changes the conversation completely. But I do think that it is unfair to be dragging the guy through the mud for what you're taking as a word-for-word commitment, which you can take it by letter of the law, but we're talking about things that we said 3 years ago. I just don't think it's fair to hold that guy to that type of standard. And to talk a little bit more about kind of him on an international level, there is a selfish part of me that wanted him to play for France. I think it would be just straight up cool to watch Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama, and Joel Embiid share the floor together. And there's no doubt that from France specifically, you understand the logic between wanting him to represent your country, that would be a dominant force in a way that they have not seen it in years past. But once again, I brought up the Nico Batum quote here, and that was not the only one. That Tony Parker and Evan Fournier also had some quotes really not being welcoming and calling into question the ethical side of things. That while the president of the basketball operations over there went out of his way to change things, it's not like this was a universal decision that Joel Embiid could walk onto that roster. And for the time being, I think it's cool that he's going to take place in this Olympic run. And by the way, from the Sixers side of things, I think this is the best case scenario. That number one, we're star hunting this offseason, and there's no better place to recruit than at the Olympic level. With the best of the best, Joel Embiid, go make some friends, man. That when you talk about how these super teams form, it happens in a lot of opportunities like this. So from the Sixers' perspective, I do think this is a good thing. And again, I'm not even guaranteeing that he will actually play in these Olympics. That his health is still at the forefront of all of our minds. He does not look like quite 100% himself yet, and there's even a little hesitation in me personally to just have him adding more basketball to his body. But it would be cool to see him participate on that level. I am happy that he's representing the United States, and I don't think you can argue with the logic that he's given. That it is cool that he wants to show out for Arthur to represent the country that has taken him in, and that he has lived majority of his life to this point. That he came over from Cameroon and he's lived here pretty much straightforward, a couple trips back here and there, but this has become his home. So let it be the case. I don't understand why France is really throwing such a hissy fit about it. I understand being disappointed, but this is something you just got to let the water go under the bridge here. That there's no need to be dragging a guy. There's no reason to make this a bigger deal than it should be. And unfortunately, you just got to take your lumps that you didn't get picked here. To me, there's no more to the story than this, but I do expect France to continue kind of digging this up, and I think that's super disappointing and just straight up unfair to Joel Embiid. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think it is unfair that France is kind of dragging him in this way? Do you think Joel should have stuck to his word that he sent back in 2021? Regardless, I appreciate you guys for tuning in this video. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like, and I will talk with you next time right here on Sixers Digest.